Hello, everybody. Welcome to our second workshop of the fall semester. Thank you all for being here. I'm so excited to dive into our workshop today. We've got a lot of great things for you. We're going to get started in 7 minutes. And yeah, I'm looking forward to getting into it. So I'm going to send over the YouTube link to my colleagues, Sharon and Chelsea, to send out to you all via email. So then you have the link. Bam, sent. Awesome. So like I said, we're going to get started in 7 minutes. I'm going to text my colleagues, Sharon and Chelsea, to send you the link. Yeah, we're going to get started shortly. For those of you that are here, if you don't mind introducing yourselves, that would be amazing. I'd love to see who is here in the chat. Please introduce yourselves in the chat. We're going to get started in 6 minutes. 6 minutes. For those of you who are here, did y'all have a good week this week? Did y'all do anything fun this week? Do y'all have any fun weekend plans? Post it in the chat section. We'd love to learn. Whoopsies. All right, we're going to get started very, very shortly. All right, 3 minutes to go before we get started. Yeah, this is always like that awkward early phase of doing a live on YouTube is, you got to give time for everybody to get on board and to join and that sort of thing. You can't get started right off the bat or else people are going to miss it. And so, you got to have the early phases of everybody coming in. But if y'all are here, please introduce yourself in the chat. Would love to know. Yeah, would love to know who's here. All right, one more minute to go. One more minute before we get started. Amazing. Cool. Hey, Chelsea. Thanks for saying hey. All right, we've got 1 minute to go. We're going to cover some cool things in our workshop this evening. Lots of good stuff. Oh, we got some more people in. Hey, new people that have just arrived, please introduce yourself. Would love to see who's here. Hey, Constance, welcome. Did you have a good week this week, Constance? Constance, did you do anything fun this week? Any good work stuff? Any fun weekend plans? Could be better. Yeah, that's fair. Sorry. Yeah, it's it's one of those weeks. Well, sorry about that, Constance, but thanks for sharing. Well, let's dive in. It's officially 6 o'clock where I'm at in Austin, Texas, 7 o'clock on the East Coast, 5 o'clock in the Mountain Time, and 4 o'clock on the West Coast. Let's dive in. So today's workshop, we're going to cover a lot of really good things. This workshop's, by the way, going to be about 10 minutes long. And what we're going to cover here is how to set proper expectations in your mentor relationship. What is the best way to handle any issues with the student that you may have? So for example, maybe in your first meeting, they didn't show up on time, or if you felt they didn't come as prepared as you would like, or they had noise in the background that felt distracting, or they asked to reschedule on short notice, and how to help. So we're going to help you how to figure out handle those sorts of issues if they potentially have come up. How to help students with key issues they face on a regular basis, like finding balance and identifying a vision. We're also going to cover that today. If you have not connected with your student yet, please email support@ambition-in-motion.com to email my colleague Sharon. We will get you all settled up there if you have any issues there. We also noticed that we did have a issue on the dashboard where it doesn't show you are connected with your student. It should be fixed within the next 48 hours. And so, yeah, by Monday, you'll be able to see your student on the dashboard, their contact info. But Sharon, my colleague at the support@ambition-in-motion.com email, has already made an email introduction between you and your student. And so you can begin your conversation and get started that way. Your student has access to the agendas. They've got access to their own dashboard, so they can see all the key things that are necessary for that. So let's dive in. What we're going to cover today, how to set proper expectations. But before we dive into that, I would love to cover the 3 keys for being successful in a mentor relationship. That is strategy, story, and state. We did this last time. We're going to do it again today. I love doing this. It's a great way to get us pumped, amped up, excited. So I said them in reverse orders Constance, congratulations. You got accepted into a cybersecurity program and you're super excited for it. That's amazing. That's amazing stuff. Good for you. So that's great news. So let's start with strategy, story, and state. So the first and most important component of this element of being a successful mentor is your state. How do you feel? What is the energy you are bringing into your mentor relationship? Are you coming in sluggish? Are you coming in sad? Are you coming in angry, mad, depressed, dejected? Any negative emotion that's causing you not to be at your peak self when you're meeting with your student. If you have that going on, it's normal. We're humans. We're not always going to be on our A game every single day, but if we want to give a really great impression, if we want our student to really feel like they're connecting with us and that we're bringing the energy and that we're coming to really help support them, we need to zap our brain into feeling really, really good. And one of the best ways to go about doing that is to let it out, release our endorphins, and get going. So we're going to do that right now. So what I'd like for you to do over the next 15 seconds, I want you to stand up and I want you to shake it out. I want you to shimmy out. I want you to let it loose. And then at the count of 3, I want you to scream at the top of your lungs. Are you ready? Let's do it. Stand up, shake it out, shake it loose, get the legs going, get the head going, get the arms going, get the body going, get the legs, get the craziness going. And then what I want you to do is I want you to scream at the top of your lungs on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah! Let it out, let it loose, let it go. Oh, man, I feel better. I feel really good. I know you might think this is crazy to do. I know you might be thinking you're sitting in front of your computer. What the heck am I doing here? You might be thinking to yourself, what is going on? People are looking at me. My family's looking at me. But I guess the question I have to ask you is, how do you feel? The answer is probably a whole lot better. So what we're doing is we're tricking our brains into feeling better. It's releasing endorphins. It's getting us feeling good in the zone, getting our blood pumping a little bit. That is something that you can do to temporarily get yourself into a state conducive for being successful. So before a mentor meeting, you do that. You could also do a power pose. You could do fake laughing. You could force yourself to smile. There's a lot of things you can do to trick your brain into feeling happy and getting yourself into a positive state. That's just the one I like to do a lot. The second key is a story. The story is what you tell yourself for why you will or will not be a good mentor. I want to focus on the good things. I want to focus on why you will be a good mentor. So what is a story you tell yourself for why you're going to be a success? That's really the core thing right there is what's between the ears. What are the things that are going to keep us going? If we tell ourselves a negative story, it's never going to work out. We're never going to be a good story. But if we tell ourselves, hey, I can be a great mentor to my student. Here's why. Or maybe my student shared with me some form of adversity that they're facing. And maybe I initially think I couldn't help them with that. But as I think further on it, what are some ways that I could help them? Maybe it's not my personal experience I can help them. Maybe it's the empathy and questions I ask that gives them great guidance and helps them think about things in a different way. That's the most important thing. So what is the story you tell yourself for why you will be successful? And the last thing is your strategy. What is the strategy that you will deploy to be a great mentor? This can mean making introductions. This can mean suggesting podcasts or books. This can mean asking great questions. This can mean prying deeper. It can mean empathizing. It can mean relating. It can mean so many different things to be great for your student. What's really critical is that we deploy a variety of different strategies so that we can figure out what works best for our student in what given moment in time, because what might have worked best for our student last month might not work best for our student this month, and vice versa. What might have worked for us this month might not work for us next month. So what's critical is that we come in with an experimental mindset to try different things constantly so that we're constantly helping our student the best way we possibly can. So I want to talk about setting proper expectations. So your first call should be all about your student. I want to be very clear. It should not be you rambling for the entire hour talking about all of your life experiences and all the amazing things you've done. If that was the case, that was probably not great. It's definitely recoverable, but it's definitely not the ideal. When it comes to your mentor relationship, it really should be all about your student. It should be all about what are the things that they're going through and your ability to listen and ask questions. Learn what is going on in their world. Ask them questions. I'm a big fan of asking them to share with you their story starting with kindergarten, what their dream job is, and where they would like to be in 5 years. It's a great question because we so often think about our life and our career as the things that we've done lately. But by asking, what's your life story starting with kindergarten, it allows us to better understand how they got to this point in life. Maybe they were on the volleyball team. Maybe they did track and field. Maybe they, had some tough things that happened in their life. Maybe they had to take care of some younger siblings and that helped formulate who they are today. I don't really know, but that story can give you context as to how they're here right now. And that level of vulnerability can give you really good insight as to what drives them moving forward. And that level of vulnerability is what builds that bond and relationship between you and them. Once you've learned this information, ask them what they believe is one thing that they can work on between now and your next call to help them get closer to accomplishing their goals. I love to ask the question is, where would they like to be in 5 years? But then I also like to break it down into a smaller, what is a 2-week, 3-week chunk that they could potentially pursue over the next few weeks to get them there. Now, they may not know the answer to that question. They might be, I don't know, like, this is crazy. I couldn't imagine possibly what I could do to move forward. And that's where you can make some suggestions. That's where you can say, well, what would you think about doing this? Or have you thought about doing that? Or what would you think about doing this outcome? I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, if you can give your students new ideas and help them think about their problems in a different light, that can help them get to where they want to be. Sometimes it's just a product of asking the question. When you hear whatever that thing is, when you come up to a common ground on that topic, remember what that is and ask that student for a status update the next time you meet with them, whenever you meet with them next. Now, what Jason is setting proper expectation is handling issues. If a student shows up late, if you felt that they didn't come prepared, if they had noise in the background that was distracting, or if they just asked to reschedule on short notice or anything that could have frustrated you, that's okay. But I'm going to give you some guidance on how to handle that, because you may think this person's wasting my time, and they did. But lambasting them and really laying into them because they wasted your time is a surefire way to end the relationship prematurely without actually getting to know the student. So one of the things that I follow is one, not getting mad at them and tell them what they did was wrong. Don't do that. I'm not a fan of immediately lambasting them. That is the best way and the easiest way to lose a mentorship. What I like to do is, if I feel a student showed up late or unprepared or just maybe disrespected my time in some form or fashion, I go through the call like nothing happened. And I take the time to listen to them. I ask them questions. I build a deep relationship. I feel like as if everything's okay. And by the end of the call, I say this: I really enjoyed this first call. Did you? And typically they'll be like, yeah, it was awesome. It was great to hear. You know, it was really good conversation. And then I would say, I feel like I can offer you a lot as your mentor and ask you some great questions and really work through some challenges that you're going through. But for our future calls, there are some things that I would like from you. First, if we say we're going to start at 10 a.m., then we start at 10 a.m. Can I count on you to be on time for our next meeting? Or if we say we're going to meet with each other, I'm expecting that you have a non-distracting environment without music or distractions in the background. Can that be a reasonable expectation for you? By waiting to set the expectation after building rapport, you are significantly more likely to have a strong relationship with the student than if you get mad at them at the beginning of the conversation. So by essentially taking the time, build rapport, act like as if, you know, everything's okay. And then you say, hey, here's my expectations moving forward. Here's what I like to see happening. Most students are pretty receptive to that and they understand what they did was wrong. And it was great to then have you clarify that to them. But if you start out the conversation like, I can't believe you show up late or blah, 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 they're just going to shut down and they're not going to want to meet with you anymore. Any questions on that? Cool. Let's jump into the next part. How to find balance and vision. So I've got a set of questions that I love to ask. I'm going to start with vision first, then I'm going to go to balance. But these are a set of questions that I love to ask to help a student identify their vision. This is something that, write it down, jot it down, take it for whatever it's worth. They're great questions to ask because it helps them get into the mindset of what's going on. So there are 5 core questions that I like to ask to help a student get into the right vision. The first question is, if this situation were to work out in the best way possible, what would it be? I love asking this question because what it does is it helps us best understand what is the vision they're setting for themselves. What is the thing that they're working towards? Sometimes people struggle when you say, hey, what's a vision you've got for yourself? Because it seems too gaudy and audacious. But if you can say, hey, if your college, if your internship, if your job were to work out in the best way possible, what would it be? What would that look like? Second question I like to ask is, what is one thing that seems impossible, but with a little luck and a lot of work, just might be within reach? See, this is how we get our students to set big, hairy, audacious goals. Sometimes we neglect or we avoid big, hairy, audacious goals because we fear the failure that may come with the realistic possibility of not hitting that goal. But if we are able to acknowledge and identify with you, the mentor, something that seems impossible, but with a little luck and a lot of work just might be within reach, They're willing to put themselves out there, even if they end up getting short, because it is much better to set a really, really crazy, huge goal and end up short than setting a really short goal, hitting it, and feeling like you could have done more. The third question I like to ask is, what will you commit to doing today, this week, this month? It's a great action question, because at the end of the day, we can have dreams, but if we are not willing to take action to go get our dreams, we are not really going to have dreams. They're going to sit in the dreamland. They're never going to be real. They're never going to be within reach. So if we've set a vision for ourselves for what we would like to be, what can we commit to doing today, this week, this month? If we want to be an investment banker, if we want to be an analyst, if we want to be a professional athlete, if we want to do anything, if we don't do anything on a regular basis to get there, we're never going to achieve it. Gosh, that example makes me think of a funny skit on Saturday Night Live. I don't know if y'all watch Saturday Night Live, but these three guys do these videos called Please Don't Destroy. And one of their videos, and these three guys, they're probably in their 20s, and they make these goofy videos. And one of them it's depicting them as high school students about to graduate from high school. And they kind of joked around that their dream would always be to play for the Los Angeles Lakers, the basketball team. And they've never actually played basketball before, and they've never practiced. And so finally, the two of the friends are trying to have a reality check with the one friend who really thinks that moving out to LA, that they'll just be picked up by the Los Angeles Lakers and signed and make millions of dollars immediately. And they're like, hey, John, going to LA and getting signed to the Los Angeles Lakers is not really realistic. And he turns around and he's like, well, I said I plan on practicing after graduation. But he's never practiced basketball in his life. It's a funny, goofy thing. But the point I'm making is that if we can get our students to commit to doing something today, this week, this month, it's a small step towards getting the outcome that they want to achieve. It follows along the belief system of Atomic Habits, which is a great book, which just kind of says, if we do small things on a regular basis, we're much more likely to make big change in our life versus trying to do really big things, but sporadically and not consistently. The fourth question I like to ask a student to help them identify their vision is, who do you know that thinks big? That's a great question to ask, because what that question does is it gets that student in the mindset as to who a role model, a paradigm could be for success. Roger Bannister was the first person to break the 4-minute mile. And I think it was within a year, 10 other people had done it or something like that. The point is that once we can see that there's a paradigm, there's a realistic person who's here, who's done what we're trying to achieve, we realize that this could be within reach. So the point I'm making is, things that may seem impossible, if we have a role model, a paradigm, somebody that we can look after or towards, that we can believe in, that can be so huge for our own growth and development. And the fifth question I like to ask to help a student set a vision is, what in your life keeps you thinking small? This is a great question to ask, because what it does is it helps them identify their limiting beliefs. Everybody's got limiting beliefs. No matter who we are, we all have limiting beliefs. I've got limiting beliefs. But as a mentor, if we can help our student identify our limiting beliefs, ideally by putting them out into the ether, we can eradicate them from our experience of life. Because so often, by verbalizing and sharing what our limiting beliefs are, when our life keeps us thinking small, it allows us to realize how much BS they are and helps us move forward onto the real things that mean more to us in life. So those are the 5 questions I like to ask a student to help them find a vision. Any questions on that? All right, cool. The last part I want to talk about is balance. So there are 7 core questions that I like to ask a student to help them achieve balance, because a lot of students feel like, oh, I've got homework, I've got tests, I've got this, I got that, I got a job, I got family, I got all these things going on. And they might feel like they're off kilter and they can't balance their life and they're really, really struggling with it. Here are core 7 questions that I love to ask students that help them reprioritize and rethink things on a much higher level to really identify what's important to them. So the first question I like to ask is, what do you want to say yes to in your life? Not necessarily what are you saying yes to, but what do you want to say yes to in your life? Maybe it's more physical activities. Maybe it's more study time. Maybe it's more time with friends. Maybe it's more time, whatever it may be. What do you want to say yes to more in your life? The second question I like to ask is, what do you need to say no to? This is oftentimes where we identify toxic friends or toxic people in our life that don't serve us. and we know that they don't serve us, but we put up with them anyways. Well, we know that we're the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. And if we're spending time with people that are toxic, it's making us toxic by essentially osmosis, by proximity effect. So we need to eradicate those people, and we need to eradicate those things that we need to say no to. The third question I like to ask is, when do you feel pulled off center? This is a great question to ask because it allows them to get present. It allows them to get in the moment of, okay, I feel off center when I've got all these balls in the air. I feel like I'm multitasking and I'm not actually able to make tangible progress towards the things I'd like to achieve. The fourth question I like to ask is, what contributes to this feeling? Maybe the thing that's contributing to that feeling is the need to impress people, the need to be a perfectionist, the need to be a people pleaser, whatever it may be. Everybody's got it, but if we can identify what is the thing that's contributing to this feeling that's pulling us off center, ideally we can eradicate that. And we say, hey, I don't need to be a people pleaser. I can go about and do my own thing and grow and develop as my own professional self and really take time for myself as opposed to not taking time for myself. The fifth question I like to ask is, when do you feel most grounded in life? This is a great question to ask because this allows us to get to know our student on a deep interpersonal level as to like who you are, where's your core, what is the thing that just makes you feel grounded as a human and as a person. The sixth question I like to ask is, what in your life takes away from what might be possible for you? So this is awesome because it allows you to better understand where you might be and what you might be doing and what might be a challenge for you. So what takes you away from might be possible for you is that's a question I like to ask. And the seventh question I like to ask is, what in your life adds to who you are? So this is the question to ask because it allows you to amplify who you are, what you're doing, and where you're at. So that's a question I like to ask to get balance, because by asking those questions, students are going to be able to see, okay, here's what I need to eradicate. Here's the things that I need to add to my life. These are the things that I want to be. These are the things I don't want to be. And here's how I'm going to go about setting a path towards getting to where I want to go. Anyways, those are my suggested questions for helping a student achieve. Oh, can we send this in an email? We can send this in an email. In fact, I can even post it in the chat section. Great point. So vision, let's see if this works. I don't know if I can post all this content in a chat message, but maybe I can. Oh, way too many words. Okay, sorry. Chat says no. Let me break this down into smaller chunks. Hold on one second. Too many words still. Okay, one question at a time. Sorry, Constance. We'll get there. Actually, you know what? I'll just send it in an email. I'll have Sharon send out a follow-up email that's got all those questions in it. But anyways, thanks for being here, y'all. You have, besides Constance having those questions about that, any other questions? There's a delay, so I'll wait a second. If not, I will send those questions to Sharon to send out to you. And yeah, otherwise, thanks for being here. Our next mentor workshop is going to be in November. I look forward to seeing you then. And I appreciate you taking the time to watch today. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you in our next mentor workshop. Have a good night, everybody. Enjoy your weekends. And thanks for being here.